So let's start with a little empathy. I like to, when we're learning about training and dog behavior, I like to really get some empathy, not only for the dogs, but for our students and our clients. Okay, this is a lovely demonstration of the curse of knowledge. The curse of knowledge means it's very hard to forget what you know and to put yourself in the mindset of somebody who absolutely doesn't know it. Now, when you're tapping out a tune, you can't strip the melody out of your head, and it's like, duh, it's Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. But when you're listening, weren't you trying hard to get it? And weren't there moments where you kind of go, oh no, I can't. Don't you think dogs live their lives that way? Don't you think we go, well, duh, I want you to go through the weave poles. And dogs go, huh? It's so obvious. I've used the analogy before, metaphor. We always have the cover of the jigsaw puzzle box. We see the cover, we trainers, we go, it's a starry night over. And here's what her face does. And I did it intentionally, I knew it's provocative. But her face does the first bracing, and then she softens, and I'm gonna cry telling the story because she goes from, like, I'm gonna fight you, and then goes, no. I said, you're doing that, I bet, to your son's dog. He doesn't know any different. He's reacting, because of course he's using the shock color when he sees, this big dog sees another dog, she's shocking the dog. Or a wheat field, duh. And the dogs have this array of puzzle pieces, and they don't know what the big picture is. They don't know where they're going with this training. It isn't obvious to them, but it's obvious to us. And the more you've done this, the longer you've been in this profession, the more obvious it seems to you, like you can't believe these people don't get this. It just seems. I've had technical problems with my computer, and I've had some IT help, and I feel instantly moronic with someone coming in to fix my computer, and I don't think I'm stupid, but I really don't know about computers. And I feel like sometimes IT consultants are like I must be as a dog trainer, like, isn't this obvious to you? You would push this button and isn't all obvious to me. I've never been taught. So just keep this in mind when you go, this exercise is really familiar to me. It seems like this is a concept anybody would know about training. Your students not only don't know, they're trying their hardest. Human students and your dog students. That correct sequencing, about getting the sequencing wrong, I'm going to spend time on this. We're coming up to lunch here. You have the recipe. This is a straightforward recipe about when you have a cue for a behavior, how to transfer the cue to something else. It's pretty straightforward. It's based on classical conditioning. The reason that I've got the recipe up there is intuitively, people do this wrong. I think intuitively, people use simultaneous classical conditioning when they're teaching a new cue, or even teaching a cue the first time. I think it's a really big mistake when you're teaching a beginning dog to lie down, to have the initial cue be down. This is a triple cue at least. It's the word, it's the hand gesture, it's the leaning. Okay, so what you're doing when you use that triple compound cue down is the dog's likely to pick out the most salient bit of that, which I don't know what it is, but I'm betting for most dogs is your leaning. But it will make the other two completely ineffective in the future. It's not only sloppy, inefficient training, it actually takes your foot and shoots yourself, because what's going to happen is later on you're going to want down. And to work, they won't work, because you've actually desensitized. Animals, when you're giving them several lines of information at once, often perceive the most salient, and the others get desensitized. They're redundant. You don't pay attention to 3 streams of information all telling you the same thing. It's the obvious one. So what I'd like to be able to say is try to be as clean as you can in your signaling. Pick one of those to be the initial signal. Let's just say it's down. I think I was doing this. We probably would do this for down. Okay, I'm sorry about that. You could do this for down. It should be fairly arbitrary, but go ahead. So if you want this to be your first signal for down, I think what tends to happen when you say what I would like my word to work is then when people move on to that stage, they're going to go down. But that's simultaneous. It won't work. So you know this. I know this is familiar to many of you, but it's nice to have that slide spelled out. When you'd like to transfer, first make sure this cue works. It's so funny how often people want to transfer to a new cue and the old cue really doesn't work. Like, a few Q-tips. Yeah, that didn't work in Japan. When I did that, I'm like, a few Q-tips. Nothing. All right. All right. As many as I could fit on the slide. We'll go through them quickly. Your cues say to animals, here's an opportunity for you to get some reinforcement for doing a movement. I'm going to give you a signal, and it means the window of opportunity is open for you to possibly get reinforced for a particular muscle movement. If you give the signal before the animal has any value to the behavior, no reinforcement history or really light reinforcement history for that behavior, there's no reason for the animal to do it. The animal's working for the reinforcement. Not consciously. The animal doesn't have to understand all this. It doesn't matter. Operant conditioning works on an unconscious level. So you don't have to go, the animal has to figure this out. Does not. But the animal has to have been reinforced enough for doing that behavior that when you signal them basically, now you might try that, they go, yay, I want to do that because I've been paid for it. I'm talking anthropomorphically. The animal isn't reasoning this out. But again, it's the emotion you have when the light turns green at the traffic intersection. You feel like, yay, green light. I want to go. I want to add cues when the dog is already going too often. They're going too much. So when you're adding cues in clicker training, it's more often like saying, the light is always green for the dog. They're going and going and bowing and working me like a circus dog. Oh my God, turn the dog off. It's Morton Egveld's term, Rolodexing through the behaviors. Rolodexing, I'm going to sit, I'm going to bark, I'm going to spin, I'm going to wave, I know all these things, they've gotten me treats and I don't know what you want. That's a perfectly okay stage for the dog to go through because there's no traffic signals, there's no cues. But at some point I want to go, okay honey, don't do it all the time. Don't just spit out, every time I look at you, or for many trainers, every time I look at you while I'm wearing a bait bag, or every time I look at you and I've got a clicker on my wrist. Dog goes, oh, you're on, let's go. At some point, trainers go, no, I would like it to be when I ask for it, when the light turns green and only then. So in clicker training, the way we add cues is typically by inserting some red lights, by saying, it isn't infinitely available for you to get reinforcement. It was, but now I'd like to be a little more specific, and it's only when I've said the word first or given the hand signal. Only then will that behavior earn you some reinforcement.